recording this now. Yeah, so this is now the third or fourth one of these calls that we've had. And like I said before, it's just people, spitballing ideas about how they can, early on it was how can we keep a feeding program going? And then we found some resources from CDC and other things that they're providing some guidance for feeding ministries and things like that. And we have that stuff on our website, and I can provide some of that, or we can look for other stuff. And we've just had people brainstorming, how can we, engage our community in this time in new ways. One thing, I was on a call yesterday with Episcopal Relief and Development's U.S. disaster team. They meet daily, and, I rotate through as kind of a chaplain to serve on that, partly because they're all exhausted and spread thin. As you can imagine, there's 6 of them that are working with the hundreds, thousands of congregations around the country. But also just to give them a sense of the diocesan needs and struggles. And one thing I was struck by yesterday was that they were at capacity. They essentially said, we know that there's a bunch of states that just had tornadoes. And normally ERD would be, proactive in figuring out what ERD can do to respond. But they essentially said yesterday that they don't have the bandwidth to even do that because they're spread so thin. And so if any of y'all know, in relation to the tornadoes up in Seneca, up in the upstate, let me know. We can pass that information along and figure out what we can do from Episcopal Relief and Development, things like that. But some of the other things that was shared on that call yesterday was that I thought was particularly helpful here for us to think about. The economic stimulus payments that we're all, or a lot of us, are going to get, the $1,200 per person, or up to $1,200 per person. Apparently, folks living in homelessness, folks experiencing homelessness, are eligible for those, but they don't always have addresses or bank accounts or whatever. And so there was some brainstorming going around about, could churches play a role in helping identify and provide technology and intellectual support for folks like that. There were no answers given, just something else to add to the never-ending list of needs in the community. So those are the main things from that call that I wanted to update on. So I'm just curious to hear from y'all, what are y'all doing that's working? What's something that you're really proud of that your community's doing? What's something that your community's struggling with? I just open the floor to hear from y'all.
Yeah, maybe even another question would be, what are you identifying in your community that you want a roundtable? Something that's come up in your heart or your community or your vestries identified. So that's in play as well.
I can start if you all would like. I want to say, like all the churches in the diocese, because of safety of our staff, safety of the parishioners, for the most part, we have shut down our outreach volunteer projects. We've shut down our outreach meetings. Also, being good stewards of our parishioner funds, we have had to suspend our grants that we give to the community ministries which we support. And we've been fortunate here at Christ Church that we have a substantial budget for grants, and there are many ministries that we have helped start over the past 50, 60, 70 years that count on these funds. So that's been a hardship for a lot of these agencies. During this time, we have worked hard to at least provide some virtual ministry opportunities for parishioners by hooking them up with and posting opportunities to do different ministries online or in the safety of their home. But in the last 2 weeks, we have been fortunate to find a way that we've been able to help our community, especially with the food needs. While I was reaching out to one of the to a downtown soup kitchen that we've been involved with for 40 years, they explained to me a need that they had. Generally, they have 10 people on staff. They have 10 people in their culinary school, and they will have 15 volunteers on any given day to help prepare and distribute meals, which go directly out to the hungry that day. And they provide probably an additional 500 meals to go out into the community each evening. And with their 5 people, they just can't prepare these meals. They told me the story of taking 100 meals out to a mobile home park in southern Greenville County, and 500 people showed up. So that story, inspired us. And as most of you know, we do have a large commercial kitchen and a food ministry here. So with director's consent, we have been at least able to reopen our kitchen, and 3 staff members here, we have been able to prepare meals for that homeless food ministry to help them distribute out to the community. So in 2 weeks, we've been able to provide 3,500 meals for Project Host here in town, and that's been a real blessing for us to meet a need in the community and feel useful. It's also been a real blessing for parishioners who have been able to participate by delivering food for us to make sandwiches and soup to meet this need. So it seems to have been a win-win for everyone, where we're helping the community while giving all of us and all of the parish an opportunity to feel useful in this time when people are just hating to sit on their hands and do nothing.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Sue.
That's sort of my problem. We're an older church, and a lot of our outreach is volunteers delivering meals, working at the soup kitchen here in Greer. And of course, they can't now. And so I've got volunteers who would do something if they could do it safely. And I'm short on ideas on that.
Yeah, so, and I can, let me find on our website, the CDC's guidance talks about the feeding ministries, and the things they talk about is, the social distancing, good kitchen hygiene is the same as good COVID-19 hygiene. But, things I know that Trinity has implemented for their on-site feeding program is everything is pickup. Instead of folks coming in, they put everything in to-go boxes and they hand it out. I've seen other places. So is y'all's, explain to me more, Sue, what it currently looks like for y'all's ministry.
Well, our ministry isn't on site. We work with Greer Community Ministries, okay. And they are the ones who are cooking. And so, we're not involved in that. And they're doing, pick up the meal at the door and the volunteer takes it somewhere. But, when my average age is 70 and with underlying conditions, they're not happy even doing that. So I need to find something that we can do that's worthwhile, but doesn't involve other people. We did a reasonably good food drive last week. I put boxes out in the parking lot. People drove up, dropped in the box, drove on. And we did pretty well with that. But it's not the same as doing something for somebody.
Yeah. And so that's probably wise for them. folks in vulnerable populations don't need to be around others right now. So the food drive idea, I've seen parishes that have done that. And they drop everything at the front door of the parish, and then someone takes it to wherever it needs to go. So perhaps working with the other Greer nonprofits to see what's needed. We have one congregation, Our Savior Rock Hill. They have what they call the Little Free Pantry. If you're familiar with this concept, it's like the Little Free Library. It's basically a bookshelf in their parking lot. But instead of books going in it that people can take, they put cans of soup, packages of diapers, rolls of toilet, whatever. So folks
with a sign that take what you need, give what you can.
Yeah.
I've thought about that, but we're not on a really good position
Okay.
where people would see that.
Yeah.
Is there a close ministry partner on a main street that could that you could do this kind of project with, and maybe a Methodist church on Main Street or something like that, or the post office? I don't know.
Good ideas, Jimmy. Because they've canceled the postal workers food drive for May the 8th, so they'll be looking for food there.
Yes.
So we're
A municipal, sorry, Kevin, but maybe there's a municipal thing, or a grocery store. Maybe you can talk the A&P or Publix or whatever into stocking something in front of there. Who knows?
And Sue, I was just to say that we have the same challenges you have. We're just fortunate that we have some staff members that we are able to keep employed, and we're putting the staff, including myself, to work on this. If we had to count on volunteers, we would be unable to do this. In fact, volunteers are not allowed to come into the building to help us do this.
Well, I'm the only staff, and I'm 68.
I get it.
A couple other things running through my head right now is I donated blood last week, and at the time, at least in Columbia, blood donation wasn't, or at least the guy that I always deal with said they're pretty full up because like COVID-19 patients don't need blood typically, and there's no car wrecks because no one's driving. But I've like 2 or 3 times in the last couple of days, I've seen commercials from the Red Cross or whatever talking about that. So if your church typically helps with blood drive, as a blood drive location or something, I mean, that might be a way to offer a parking lot for someone to come bring a donation bus is one thing. And then the other, different hospitals are treating these differently, but the donated masks that people sew, I know some hospitals are saying we'll take whatever. Other hospitals are saying we only want N95. But depending on what the healthcare infrastructure in Greer is, perhaps there's folks that have that skill or that ability in congregations to put some of that stuff together.
Last night, someone in a different diocese said that the local Westminster Canterbury homes were taking. Do we have those in this diocese?
What are they?
They're church-based, faith-based nursing home assisted livings.
We have one. It's not church-based in the sense that it's a charity, but it's connected to we actually have 2 in the Columbia area. I haven't heard, Jimmy, have you heard from Still Hopes or Finley House about, I mean, Still Hopes is a high-end place. And so my sense is that their needs aren't going to be so significant there. Finley House doesn't have any assisted living. It's just retirement, right, Jimmy? So,
Yeah, I don't think they have any step up. Even
they have no. Yeah.
Okay, I'll keep looking on that one because I've got a lot of ladies who are sewing. We normally make blankets and quilts. And
yeah, I think that's a perfect way to pivot that ministry into something new.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so this is David Vaughn and Holy Trinity in Clemson, and a couple of things that I'm working on with Clemson actually is a program that we're calling Clemson University Engage, In other words, how can we understand what the needs are in the community? How do we connect things? At the same time, working with Holy Trinity Outreach. Once again, how do we understand what the needs are in the community? My scope ranges across the state of South Carolina, but for example, I'm going to show you one area in particular in Anderson. And let's see if I can I share my screen?
I think I can.
Yeah, if you can just enable me, I've got
Yeah,
one.
I'm gonna make you a co-host real quick. I trust you, David.
Okay, that's good.
There. I think you should be able to share your screen now, maybe.
Okay, so you should be able to see, let's see now. So there's a group that have been working with for about 4 years in Anderson called the Lot Project. It's the least of these, where they're engaging essentially the alphabet streets where the textile mills were. And they left in the 90s. They left a population without, transferable skills, education, you name it. And so there's now a homeless population that goes with that. There is situations where we've got rampant drug use. What's now happened is, and they contacted me last week and said, here we have these new things we're trying to pull together with regard to COVID-19. The problem is that, these individuals, because they don't have a house, that means they don't have a place to wash their hands. That means they don't have a place to take a shower. They don't have a place to use the bathroom. So now we have rampant, open defecation in the area, which has literally been there. It hasn't got worse. It's just there. One thing that I started looking at here was, wow, we got, Lot Projects kind of holding their own. And this is actually Andy Gibson, who's working with them in his ministry. This lady across the street's over here kind of laying on the doorstep there. And I'm trying to figure out, well, what's that big building we have right there? That's the Clemson Extension Office. So I have now met with Clemson Extension and said, you realize that you have a major problem on your back doorstep. They're full aware of this and they didn't know how to do this. So I've got them engaged now and we're trying to figure out how to come up with solutions for some of the homeless in the areas. We're trying to basically launch this more as a pilot. But there's some good things that happened in Spartanburg several years ago, where after the textile mills pulled out, they actually went through and worked with all these folks, identified technical training, tried to connect them with jobs, and actually turned it into a benefit for the area and were able to attract new industry in and put people to work. So I'm not saying it's necessarily a perfect solution, but the point is we're actually trying to move forward. So. Let me stop share on that. But in a bigger picture is, one is we're trying to figure out how we can actually leverage Clemson University with the students, with the faculty, whatever, to actually address a lot of these issues we have in community. But the other part is that what is the mission for each of the parishes that we have? In other words, do each of us have, and I know the answer to this, a disaster response plan or a business continuity plan? Did we plan for this? And I'm going to say we probably did not, and there were not many that have. But the reality is that this is a time when we need to learn. This is a point in time where, okay, things aren't so bad. This is not an airborne Ebola and we're all running for the hills. I mean, this is one where we actually can do work. So we should be thinking about, how do we get this, together? But the other part is that how do we as faith-based organizations come together? And how do we create a strong network in our area so that when bad things happen, we know, okay, well, we're going to handle the soup kitchen, and we're going to go do this, and they're going to do that. And what I'm finding is that many of our communities are disconnected. Everyone kind of focuses internally, but we're not engaged with the community. And I know specifically at Clemson, and I'm blaming Clemson partly for this as well, is we don't really know how to engage. And so the point is, I think this is something we need to figure out together. And we're trying to talk through some solutions right now. I don't have the solution, but I think this is something we do need to figure out, because otherwise, when things like this happen, we sit on our hands. So thank you.
Yeah. No, I was listening to a podcast the other day with epidemiologist and a researcher talking about how, in some sense, COVID-19 is a dress rehearsal
Mhm.
for
It is.
because this is bad, right? This is unprecedented in our lifetimes, but it's, if something as deadly as like SARS or MERS had the same transmutability as COVID-19, like we're lucky that it's, not worse than it is.
Oh,
And so what are
absolutely.
things that we can put in place and learn now? Because these things are increasing.
Yeah, it was really funny because we ran a tabletop exercise at Clemson with some students. Uh, it was a zombie apocalypse back in February, and we were preparing for it. An E-Day where faculty would have to actually teach online, and many of the faculty pushed back and says, I can't imagine a scenario when we would ever have to teach online. Wait 2 weeks. Here's your situation. So no, that we do need to look at this. We need to find the silver linings. We need to look at this as a blessing.
Yeah. And the other piece that you said, David, about, working together is it happens a lot. Like when a disaster happens, when a neighborhood floods or whatever, all these parishes, not just Episcopal parishes, but the Episcopal Church, the Methodist Church, all of them, they're all spinning their wheels doing a lot of the same things, unless pastors or leaders in the congregation know each other, and they can start that conversation and say, hey, we have a gym with some showers, so we're going to do this. Y'all have a kitchen, y'all do that. And so number one, it goes to the idea of relationship building ahead of time. Some places have really strong ministerial alliances. For neighborhood, like in Columbia, there may be regional ones, but in Greer, it may be all of Greer. If they're, in some places don't. Some places
Right.
the pastors and clergy don't talk to each other. But that's where, in Houston, a lot of the organization came down to all the nonprofit cooperatives of all the churches did some of that. And so what are the things we can learn from that to help us right now? Because, we're maybe not even to the middle of this thing yet,
Right.
but also to help us going forward for the next thing.
Yeah, and the thing is, and we may want to look at some pilots, whatever it may be, because there is, if you look down through the FEMA structure, through South Carolina Emergency Management, and come down, there's an organization that is nationally recognized called VOAD.
Yeah.
Which is Volunteers Active in Disasters. Really and truly, we need to figure out how we actually become part of that. And what that does is there are boots on the ground volunteers, but at the same time, in this type of event, having someone who can make a phone call and connect people is value.
Yeah.
And that's something where we could actually use different populations for different types of tasks. But the other thing, I guess, is where I'm really coming from is, we keep waiting till a disaster to happen to say, hey, how can I help? It would be great if we could actually pre-script a lot of that beforehand. So my thoughts.
But please,
Absolutely.
please write their disaster plan and keep checking it. It's not supposed to be a doorstop.
That's correct.
Yeah. Yeah. And on our, the diocesan website, we linked to Episcopal Relief and Development has some tools to help parishes put together disaster plans. Disasters, everything from a flood to a shooting incident to whatever, just to help think through that. But it's only as good as updated, right? Like you open up the disaster plan and the 4 contacts are 2 clergy ago, the past senior warden who died, and 2 staff members that you no longer know, right? So keeping that stuff updated.
So is there initiative diocese-wide to implement something like that? And are there standards?
The standards are following the Episcopal Relief and Development guides. Like the guides take you through let me pull some of that up if I can find it real quick. As you can imagine, with a wife and 2 kids trying to work and do school from home, my internet is not what it once was. So my computer is thinking really slowly. If it pulls up, I'll show you. So diocesan-wide, no, there's not any organized effort. There is.
Although about 2 years ago, we were all asked to put some effort into writing our disaster plans when the asset map was first being done.
Yeah. And the asset map is something else that we're picking back up. So the Episcopal asset map, I'll share my screen and we'll look through the website a little bit. So this is the diocesan website. This is the disaster and emergency response page. You can see over here under Episcopal Relief and Development, there's a bunch of links here. One is the Comprehensive Preparedness Planning Guide for Congregations. Click that, and that's going to download a Word document. Let's see if I open this Word document, if y'all can still see my screen. Actually. There. And this Word document will take you step by step. Episcopal Relief and Development is the organization church-wide that spearheads a lot of this. They're our connection to VOAD. They sit on the National VOAD organization. And then, so here's what this document looks like. You go through and get through a lot of the forward stuff, and then table of contents. I mean, this is a pretty substantial guide that takes you through, risk assessment, looking what has happened, what's likely to happen. Some places where we are, tornadoes are likely. Other places it's blizzards, whatever. But identifying the different potential disasters, assets. Doing an inventory. The parish I served in, Houston, we had put off an updated inventory for 3 or 4 years, and then we were forced to do one to make an insurance claim after Hurricane Harvey, which was not the right time to be doing that. Response and recovery capacity, communication and outreach, developing templates. And so this guide, as you'll see, is like 60 pages long, and it walks you through. And part of that is the Episcopal asset map. This is something we're working on updating. We had an intern a couple years ago in the diocese that reached out and got the congregation started. But since then, it's been up to the congregations to keep it updated. That's happened at some level, but I was looking through the asset map yesterday or 2 days ago. Some of them haven't been updated since like 2017. Including the parish that my family and I attend still had the previous rector listed. So I knew that change needed to happen, so I went ahead and made it. Anyone can suggest a change for the Episcopal asset map. And then it all goes to the map administrator, which is me. And some changes like clergy person and things like that, those are relatively simple. But there's some questions there that are, what are the outreach ministries you have? What are the formation ministries you have? We at Diocesan House don't always know that. We don't usually know that. And so we don't have the resources at the diocesan level right now, at least, to go out and meet that demand. And so we sent a note out to clergy and wardens and parish administrators yesterday with lots of things. 2 things related to the asset map. One was just to update the asset map in general, just look through and make any changes you need. And the other was ERD's working on a COVID-19 specific asset map. And so if there are ministries that you still have open, feeding ministries, whatever they look like, housing ministries, to put those somewhere else. And I'll show you that in a minute. But one reason that the asset map is important is we use it as it's not working right now. I need to go work on that. We use it as our church finder. Fine, of course. So the Episcopal asset map might not be working right now. Let's go somewhere else and look for it. We use it as our church finder on our diocesan website, but the link we have must be broken. And so I will work on that. So this was good. But this is what it looks like. You know, this is our diocese and all of the places. So you go in here and we'll come up here over to Clemson, click in here, and there we'll have, well, that's Canterbury.
Yeah, and you don't have to pick on Clemson, but we'll go ahead.
No, I will, just because I like you, and we'll see. And this isn't, you know, so you go through here and here's worship times and address, and hey, Sue's Kate's still on there, but Chris is still on there as assistant to the rector. So that's something that needs to change. But then you can see, you know, they've got their worship times and things on there. Let's go somewhere else that I know. One that was just updated the other day. Oh. And you'll see the different types of things that can go on here. Let's see what Trinity's looks like. Let's see, it still has Dean Jones there, and he's left. But you go through here and trying to find one that has the ministries listed. But you get the idea. And so this is a place where a couple things. It's so people in your local community could potentially find information, but it's also how Episcopal Relief and Development finds things. Trying to find their COVID-19.
So, Alan, is there a way or any mechanism within this tool to identify needs within a community and also resources? In other words, this whole matchmaking thing is where I see being huge benefits or bringing huge benefit.
Yeah. So finding the needs, there's not through that tool. That's the Episcopal Asset Map is specifically what are our assets as the Episcopal Church.
Okay.
It's a way that we can figure out which congregations have showers, which congregations have, you know, a clothes pantry, things like that.
Or a meeting.
Or a meeting room. Any of that is thing you can list anything you want on there. And Episcopal Relief and Development has used that. I've used that on those VOAD calls. So when, you know, come next fall, I'll be on daily VOAD calls during hurricane season where people from Samaritan's Purse and people from, you know, the Red Cross and people from all these different groups are on there saying, you know, here's some things we have available. And someone from, you know, Horry County is going to be on that call and saying, hey, we need, you know, a chainsaw. And then we have a disaster trailer in the diocese that's loaded up with tools and chainsaws and all that. So I can say, hey, you know, you guy from Horry County, let me get you in touch with Mitch Smith at St. Martin's and we'll see if we can get the trailer there. So that's one way that map gets used is I'm able to look through and say, hey, there's a group from Wyoming that wants to do a mission trip and they're looking for a place for a bunch of kids and chaperones to spend the night. I can find congregations that potentially have a gym and some showers, but it's all dependent on how up to date that map is. So for y'all, you know, it would be helpful if you would go in and when you go to that map, there's a place that says update this place. There's a link on there where you can.
How about pulling that up, Alan, and
Yeah.
walking through it for a second?
Yeah, so
I apologize for getting into this.
No, Rob Brown's on here now, so we'll get to pick on a different church this time.
Yeah, go to St. Matthew's Partner because I looked at this thing yesterday and it's really wrong.
Yeah, and so which one of these is you?
To the left.
This over here?
That one, yeah.
There we go. Okay, so you go to more details, and you find a bunch of stuff here. And yeah, Rob, I was saying, we put some effort in a couple years ago. We had an intern in the diocesan house that helped get a lot of this set up, but we don't necessarily have the resources and infrastructure to keep it updated because I don't know when y'all change your ministries and all that. And so you go down here and you see volunteer opportunities, ministries. So they've done a good job. They've got the free clinic. They've got all this. But if I know that Rob got fired, I can go up here to update this place.
Not if,
Now,
when.
when Rob gets fired, and I can go up and I can say, oh, we've renamed this place the Rob Brown Memorial Episcopal Church.
Memorial,
Or-
dude.
Or you can go in here. So you go to update this place.
Right.
You can change the address. You can change the description, worship times. You can change these. I know Danny Shelton, I think, emails me every time y'all change your worship schedule, Rob.
Okay.
So here's ministries where you can add in the ministries and things like that.
Yeah.
Property assets. Here's another thing. And this is something that Episcopal Relief and Development uses. So if you have a commercial kitchen, click that. And then the U.S. Disaster Response Team can pull up all the churches in a region that have a commercial kitchen and get a spreadsheet of them. But the data's coming out is only as good as the data going in. And so for those of y'all on this call, I recommend you go. I'll fix the links to this on our website. Apparently they changed, Episcopal Relief and Development changed their coding and didn't let us know. And here it asks, when was your disaster plan last updated? And so those are things that you can go in and change. And once you save,
Alan, can you
publish.
start at the beginning again and just show us how to get here from the website, or how we would get here if the links worked?
Yeah. So once the links work, you'll go here, and you'll go a couple different places. About pretty much all of these tabs up here have find a church somewhere on it. And so you can go there, and it should pop up right here underneath this PDF, but the code is not working. Another thing is if you click on the address, it should pop up a map right. Oh, there it is. Okay. Maybe it was just taking a little while. So again, any of these tabs, you go to find a church, and it may just be taking a minute. And I'll work on that end.
So are we linked to the South Carolina 211 network?
I don't know.
Okay, so 211 is an information network that at least in Spartanburg County is updated regularly through the United Way. And it's a list of all available resources around the state, food pantries, free clinics, you name it, okay? And so it may be, I don't know if we, I mean, I would think this resource's greatest value is for the larger community, not just for the individual parishes or the diocese. So would it be, can anybody look at this?
Yeah.
Okay, if anybody can look at it, we might want to go to 211 and see if we can't put a link there saying, available, resources through Episcopal churches in the Diocese of Upper South Carolina.
Yeah, I can look into, I'm not familiar. I mean, I'm familiar with 211.
Right. Yeah, I don't know how it's managed in other counties, but the United Way of Spartanburg does ours. There you go.
So let's do 29204. Let's see what comes up. Yeah, I can look into that and see, or if any of y'all figure out. Nothing's coming up. It's thinking. So back to the Episcopal asset map, I'll get this thing figured out. But if you go to episcopalassetmap.org, it'll take you to this home screen, and there you can search by diocese, or you can look for all that. This isn't in alphabetical order, or if it is, it's a really weird alphabetical order, so it's hard to find. But here you find our information, you see the map, and And so for clergy, parish administrators, and senior wardens, you all received an email yesterday that has a link directly to where you can update your information. It has a link directly to our list of maps. And so you go in and let's just pick one of these places. We'll come up here to, no, not that. St. Martin in the Fields. You click on more details to get to the thing. And then right here under the name is a thing that says update this place. And so there you go in, you change whatever you need to change, and then you save and publish. So that's what they have there. And then there's another, I need to find this. Okay. Episcopal Churches COVID. The Episcopal Asset Map is working on a second map that's specific to COVID-19. It's a temporary listing. And here, this is being filled out more slowly. You'll see, we all have a lot of work to do to update this information. That same group, the clergy, senior wardens, and parish administrators received a link to a form to fill out for ministries that are still operating, specifically in response to COVID-19. So feeding programs, housing programs, things like that. And those are being populated on this map. And I do know that nationwide, the U.S. Disaster Program works with Nationwide VOAD and other partners to share this information and to help people find what they need to find. So that's a quick run through on the Episcopal Asset Map. And we're coming about up to, well, you now saw my warning. We have another call coming up in 10 minutes. If there's questions about the Episcopal Asset Map, how to update your information, reach out to me, and I can, if I don't know the answer, I can certainly get the answer by emailing the people I'm about to email about their embed codes being broken.
Is there a way you could just send links out to everyone on the email for the meeting later when you get a chance?
Yeah, if I can. Since I'll have to figure out if there's a way, because y'all didn't register for this, and so I don't have a record. But if you all email me, might be the easy way. I can look on after the fact and see if there's a thing. But if you email me, it's abentrup, ABENTRUP at edusc.org. I can share these links and some more information on the asset map there, and also share with you the good news when we fix the embed codes on our website. Any last minute questions, thoughts, ideas? We got about 5 minutes here before we need to switch over for the worship call.
One last question, and I know we won't get the answer this time, but I'm also really interested. I know 211 is a good asset, but what I would think that each parish has connection with other faith-based organizations in the area. And it would be good in the future to understand how we're connecting with them as well. So just another thought.
Yeah, and a lot of that, a lot of information gets shared with diocesan house, so we're able to disseminate that, but a lot of it doesn't, right? There's a lot of congregations that are doing wonderful work that they just are in their town doing their work, and it doesn't always funnel up, which is great because, right, they're doing the good work. If there's ways, like Kevin, you mentioned the feeding ministry. David, you mentioned the Clemson thing. Sue, you mentioned the sewing thing. I'm going to connect with Courtney Thompson, our communication director, and have her reach out to y'all because I want to share that story, right? Like, I think it's great, David, that Holy Trinity is working with Clemson on how to use an asset in a new way, right? Kevin, the fact that y'all are feeding thousands of people. Sue, the fact that the people that were doing blankets are now doing masks. Like, those are stories that I want to help share the great things y'all are doing, but it also serves as idea generation so that someone at, St. Swithin's in Podunkville can say, oh, that's an idea. We can do something like that too. And so eventually Courtney is going to reach out probably to y'all to say, hey, I don't know anything about this other than Alan said y'all talked about this feeding ministry, Kevin. You know, I'd love to learn more about that, or David, what you're doing at Clemson, these things, because that's one way that we get information out to congregations is through our media, you know, Facebook and our blog and the diocesan email newsletter, things like that. The other thing we're working on, David, is these roundtables, right? This is a place where specific to COVID-19, we're sharing these resources. But also, you know, clergy ideally are getting together monthly or so in clericus meetings, which one of the ideas of that is to build relationship and also share what each other's doing at convocation meetings, which we have quarterly, but I can't even think about what the next one of those is going to look like because it's going to fall when we can't meet. But we have those where clergy and lay leaders from every congregation in a region get together, and everyone I go to has a time for the parishes to say, hey, here's the things we're doing. We have an oyster roast coming up and we started a new feeding program. And so that's a way informally. We don't have any formal mechanisms to share all that outside of the asset map right now. But if people have ideas, you know, I'd love to see how we can implement those. But those are the channels right now where we're able to share information and ideas. Probably time for one last thought, if anyone has one. All right. Well, I appreciate y'all being a part of this. And yeah, reach out to me if you have questions or thoughts or ideas. We'll gather again to talk about mission and outreach 2 weeks from now, which is the 29th at 10 o'clock. Same link, all of that. These are relatively informal like this. People come on and share the questions and ideas they have. And we can shift these going forward. If there's something else, you know, if having someone from Episcopal Relief and Development come do a thing specifically on the asset map would be helpful, we can make that happen. If there's people we want to bring in to talk about specific things, or if we just want a round table, we'll keep doing that. But thank you all for your time. In 5 minutes, there's going to be another one of these calls that looks at worship and how we're gathering folks to worship in this new time. And so if any of y'all are looking for ideas or have questions about that, I invite you to log off and log back on to that link. But otherwise, I think that's it. Go in peace to love and serve the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Thanks be to God. Thank y'all.
Thanks, Alan.
Yep.
Thank you.